Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Tuesday, March 5th, 2013. I'm Darko and my website is ggnonline.com. And on YouTube, my channels are ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. I just posted a poll up here yesterday, you can check it out. Do you believe the recent anti-Israel stance by the Obama regime is a counterintelligence operation to make Israel appear vulnerable to attack by Iran? So these first couple articles are not new. They're from November of last year and July of last year, but it kind of sets the tone for, again, a theme, and that is something I thought about yesterday after making these videos, which is a lot of these students that are coming in from foreign countries, mostly China and India, and Saudi Arabia, they get these degrees and they leave, but at the same time, they may also want to stay, because you have to remember, when they leave China, which is, not like Saudi Arabia, but similar, they have executions and stuff like that, what most Western people would, tend to think is brutal. But for whatever it's worth, they may want to, stay in the United States. So there's going to be all these people that are foreigners, especially with China, that are going to end up staying here, and they're going to get nice jobs, and I commend them. The problem is that there's this whole thing going on with the United States. You know my views as far as like the whole borders and stuff like that, the invisible line, and stateless societies. And it would be great if we can go back to that, where people could have voluntary exchange. I think as one viewer put it, but we don't. So we do live in a country with borders and that. And the irony is that this is not just happening in the United States, it's happening in the UK and other places as well, where they just keep the gates open for immigration while they're struggling with high unemployment. At the same time, they're not manufacturing as much, and they're not developing any skills. And in this case, the government could actually do something, since it gobbles up billions of dollars in tax revenue. Is what they can provide more incentives, they can provide more vocational programs to help Americans that are American citizens excel and compete. But instead of that, they pay corporations to move overseas, and these corporations then have these Americans train these Chinese individuals, and we're talking about medium skilled work, basically not people that are over here for college degrees, but overseas, and they'll go over there and train them to replace them, and then that's it. They're gone. They lose their job. And then these companies like to play this kind of patriotic game of Americanism, like they're an American corporation, basically waving the American flag around their products. And lastly, there's two things to basically look at, which is one about drone strikes inside the United States by China against Chinese dissidents. I remember we were covering that recently. Also, all of these individuals that are going to be wealthy. I mean, let's not forget all the billionaires, Chinese billionaires that buy up property in the U.S. and in the UK, but they can also get into politics. So, record number of foreign students in the United States, China, and Saudi Arabia helped push the number of international students in the U.S. to 764,000 last year. It climbed 6% to a record last year, propelled primarily by continuing increases of students from China and a surge from Saudi Arabia. And it actually says about 14% of U.S. students earning bachelor's degree this year studied abroad. It says here, raising concerns that American students are not developing the skills they will need to succeed in the global workforce as a global citizen, of course, right? Called on U.S. educators to step up efforts to send more students abroad. He added that the rising numbers of international students at U.S. campuses may help offset the low study abroad participation rates of the U.S. students. Then you have companies say 3 million unfilled positions in skill crisis. Of course, all of these crises, or most of them, are engineered, so they could have been avoided, but this is part of the agenda or plan. These are their goals. Even with almost 13 million Americans looking for work and 8 million more settling for part-time jobs, almost half of the 1,300 U.S. employers surveyed say they cannot find workers to fill the positions. At the same time, American employers are less likely than their counterparts overseas to invest in training. Then there's this article here. This is from March 5th. U.S. should sell citizenship for $50,000. Writers at think tank lay out a case of market-based immigration plan. So they go on there and they say, we propose that instead of the current maze of rules and formulas, the U.S. should sell the right to become a citizen. So a $50,000 price tag would attract those who place the highest value on citizenship, pulling in young, enterprising immigrants, most likely wealthy Chinese, Indians, like we're talking about, Saudis, more likely to be positive contributors to the economy. It would enhance the country's stock of human capital. Wow. How do you see that? That's why they say human resources. You're an asset, right? You're a cog in the wheel, as they say. So it says, all this may sound radical, they admit, but it would be more open and fair system than the one we know. It says current citizens could pay the fee of immigrant relatives who matter the most to them, encouraging the best kind of family reunification. And lastly, what I was thinking about was, as far as the immigration thing is, and I know this is part of the plan to keep the floodgates open and drain the system to create, basically to create division, which is actually what they were seeing down here when they were talking about the students not getting along with other students and having a hard time. But how about actually making it super easy to emigrate and get set up and make it harder to immigrate? And like I said, strengthen the skills of the people that you have, the quote, labor force. But that's part of the, like I said, that's part of the agenda is the global community, globalization, fragmenting all these nations and that. Egypt introduces Saudi-style Islamic moral police force. This, of course, is the result of Western engineering, quote, the Arab Spring, and they got their Zionist proxy known as the Muslim Brotherhood in there. Egypt has quietly introduced a Saudi-style Islamic religious police force in order to implement the moral principles of Islam using non-violent methods. Today we have absolutely no relationship with the morality committees in Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Somalia, or Nigeria. We will only offer advice to those who want to listen. Again, in Egypt, more governance call on army to manage state. Around a dozen people went to the Suez government on Monday morning to hand in signatures delegating the army to manage the state. They've adopted the idea of giving signatures to notaries to demand that the army runs the nation. Similar thing going on in Pakistan as well, where the Shiites want protection from the Sunnis. Yemen, basically U.S.-backed Yemen, and their puppet regime, unyielding on child executions. So the United States is funding this regime. They are providing them with tactical support. Rights groups say Sana is putting to death juveniles, disregarding their age and violating international. So this is kind of the theme for this video, which is the United States backs regimes like this. It's propped up like it. It kind of like in Libya and other places, Iraq, although Iraq is kind of questionable, but still, in Afghanistan. And then you have the ones that are openly partners, and they're theocracies or dictatorships like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, and they don't say anything about that, you know. This is already one of the world's highest death penalty rates. Yemen is increasingly jailing and executing people who committed crimes as children because of lack of birth certificates and failing justice system. At least that's what they say. Executions of 7 Saudis postponed for a week. This is from 8 hours ago. Saudi security official says executions of 7 Saudis sentenced to death by crucifixion and firing squad have been postponed for a week. So I'm not, basically supporting the House of Saud here, but you can see how people in different cultures don't understand other cultures. We know that, of course, the Sunnis and Wahhabists are basically supporting the terrorists to overthrow the Syrian government, and they do this in other places as well. Their footprints, along with the U.S. and the Zionists. But, like this Disney movie, they go in there and they talk about using that. They will cut off your ear if you're not like your face. So some of it may seem extreme, but like in Iran, what do? They hang bankers and people that commit fraud. So, this is just a clash of cultures. And in the U.S., you actually get promoted and you get millions of dollars for scamming thousands of people. This is what I'm seeing in the media. So, I don't know what the motive is here with the media. UAE puts 94 people on trial. The UAE has put on trial 94 people arrested on charges of trying to overthrow the government of having political activities connected with Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood. They said that they tried to establish and ran an organization seeking to oppose the basic principles of the UAE system of governance and to seize power. China executes 4 foreigners over Mekong murders. China executes the foreigners following live television broadcast. So it was for killing 13 Chinese sailors in an attack on the Mekong River following a live nationwide broadcast showing them being led to their deaths that harkened back to the mass public execution rallies of the past years. It's funny because, this is a Western slant on this article. So the funny part is, I see in the future, as this global community you'll start to see it take place, where everybody just has the same culture, and it's going to be a culture of death and pure evil. And you'll see where you'll have UFC fights. You'll have basically people being executed live on television in the United States and everywhere around the globe. But people actually will like this. They'll actually tune into it like a pay-per-view for executions and other sorts of stuff. Because that's just the trend that I see for the plebes, is just give them the blood, give them the blood entertainment, 'cause it'll never be enough. Guess who's coming to dinner? A Chinese general who threatened nuclear strike on U.S. visits Washington this week. They say it's part of a U.S.-China military exchange program. China military spending increases, defended as peace-promoting endeavor. So it goes on and says, as such a big country, China's inability to ensure its own security would not be good news for the world. Our strengthening of our defenses is to defend ourselves, to defend security and peace, and not to threaten other countries. U.S.-China agree UN sanctions draft. So North Korea basically went on to what? They said that they're going to scrap the armistice that ended the 1953 Korean War. So this deal that was reached by the U.S. and China significantly expands UN sanctions on North Korea for its 3rd nuclear test. Dennis Rodman's North Korea versus the medias. So the White House issued a whole statement condemning the Rodman visit to North Korea and North Korea for allowing him to visit, insisting celebrity sporting events of this kind are unacceptable. It goes on, it says that the reality is that the reaction more reflects on North Korea's status as a faceless bad guy, and that the discomfort of having anything happen there that isn't a de facto outrage. They say sports have long played a special role in opening up nations, and if there's one thing the Obama administration seems determined, it's to avoid an opening up of North Korea, so they could have a bad guy. Shame on you, Dennis Rodman. Hanging out with dictators, nothing to be proud of. The stories of Kim Jong-un partying with Dennis Rodman are funny until you remember that North Korea is a rogue nuclear power that regularly threatens war and starves its own people in prison camps. Again, we just covered this yesterday. U.S. has more people in prison than the entire world. They're a rogue nuclear power. That means that they're possibly an independent sovereign nation that's able to defend themselves and not in the strings of the internationalists and Zionists. Regularly threatens war? No, actually they're completely provoked all the time with exercises between the U.S. and South Korea by shooting down their flag and stuff in live fire drills. So if anyone's provoking it, it's the West. Another country that's similar is that, North Korea hasn't attacked anybody. They haven't invaded anybody. They're not abducting people and drone bombing anybody. Same with Venezuela, right? Hugo Chavez, a Fury Venezuela leader, dies at 58. So, mission success, right? They took him down. So the vice president added that a U.S. embassy military official is being expelled for seeking information from military officials being involved in destabilization projects against the government, and also added that special measures are being taken to counter sabotage and conspiracies against the government. And people who buy that us versus them, real hardcore us versus them propaganda, one down and how many to go? Adios, Pinko. His daughters look like genuine Neanderthals, and the world is a better place. Good God, finally. Evil men around the world are dying, and this is a good thing. So maybe Obama and Clinton and Bush will be next, right? Israeli settler, rabbi who promoted peace dies. So this rabbi, an Israeli settler known for his efforts to promote coexistence between Arabs and Jews, has died at the age of 68. Gunmen kill Venezuelan indigenous chief. They killed a chief who fought for demarcation of indigenous people's land in northwest of the country, Venezuela. Indian woman on 12-year hunger strike is charged. She's being force-fed through a tube by authorities. So there's people that are starving in India, and they let them starve. And the people that want to starve, they keep them alive. That's why I say that's the irony of this brave new world. They shoot you, the authorities, and they bring you back to life.